A black belt instructor mocked a biker's teenage son in front of his entire class. The next morning, 60 Hells Angels motorcycles lined up outside his gym. "My father isn't a coward." The words came not from Vincent Callahan, the leather-clad man standing silently at the back of the gym, but from his 14-year-old son, Ethan, who had been sitting cross-legged on the bench, backpack still at his feet. Derek Hoffman, the third-degree black belt who owned elite strike martial arts and had, moments earlier, made a joke about weekend warriors on motorcycles who think they're tough, turned with a condescending smile. "What did you say, kid?" "You heard me. My father isn't a coward, and neither are his brothers." The gym went silent. 20 students in white Gs shifted uncomfortably on the polished hardwood floor. Some stared at their feet, others glanced nervously at Vincent, who stood motionless near the door, his weathered face unreadable beneath a grey beard. Teenager had just challenged a man who believed his dojo was an untouchable kingdom. What happened next would bring an entire motorcycle club to his doorstep and expose the difference between a belt and true honor. This is the story of how a quiet boy guarding his father's past changed everything one calm sentence at a time. Just before we dive in, let us know in the comments where you're watching from today. We love seeing how far these stories reach. And make sure you're subscribed, so you don't miss tomorrow's special video. Now let's jump back in. Enjoy the story. A quiet boy's promise to his father was about to be tested. For 3 years, Ethan had kept his training secret, honoring Vincent's rule. Never use what you know unless someone weaker needs protection. But tonight, in front of a room full of strangers who had laughed at his father's expense, that rule would be bent to defend something more important than pride. The scent of rubber mats and commercial-grade disinfectant filled elite strike martial arts. It was a place of polished surfaces and mirrored walls, a gym that prided itself on modern efficiency and competitive success. On the far wall, tournament banners hung in neat rows, each one emblazoned with Derek Hoffman's name and the gym's logo. Below them, a glass case displayed dozens of trophies, their gold and silver surfaces gleaming under the harsh LED lights. The late afternoon sun slanted through the high, windows casting long shadows across the training floor. At 47, Vincent Callahan moved with a quiet economy that made him easy to overlook. He wore a black leather vest over a faded denim shirt, his jeans worn but clean, his boots scuffed from years of riding. For the past 3 months, he had been picking up Ethan from this gym every Tuesday and Thursday, waiting patiently on the bench near the door while his son finished the beginner's kickboxing class. He never spoke unless spoken, to never drew attention to himself. He would sit with his hands folded, watching the students with an expression that revealed nothing. Vincent took pride in being invisible. It was safer that way. The patches on his vest told a story he preferred to keep quiet. A rocker that read Hells Angels, a location tag that read Oakland, and a small memorial patch with the initials MC stitched in red thread. But tonight was different. Derek Hoffman had been in a good mood. His advanced class had just finished a particularly brutal sparring session, and he was riding the high of watching his top students dominate the newer members. He was 38, built like a middleweight fighter, with broad shoulders and arms that strained against his black GI. His third-degree black belt was tied perfectly around his waist, the ends hanging at precisely the same length. He wore his authority like armor. As the students bowed and began to disperse, Derek noticed Vincent sitting on the bench. He had seen the man before, of course, always waiting silently, always wearing that leather vest. Derek had made assumptions. Everyone did. Leather vest, motorcycle boots, the hard look of someone who had spent time on the wrong side of the law. It was easy to dismiss men like Vincent as relics, tough guys who thought they were dangerous because they rode loud bikes and wore intimidating patches. Derek walked toward the front desk, toweling sweat from his neck. His assistant, instructor Kyle, a muscular 25-year-old with a second-degree black belt, was logging attendance on the computer. 3 of Derek's top students lingered nearby, still buzzing with adrenaline from the sparring session. "Good work tonight, guys," Derek said, his voice carrying across the gym. "That's what real discipline looks like. That's what separates martial artists from weekend warriors." Kyle laughed. "You talking about those guys on the bikes who rolled past earlier?" Derek grinned. Exactly. You see those guys? All leather and noise, revving their engines like they're in some kind of movie. They think they're tough because they ride in a pack. He raised his voice slightly, just enough to ensure Vincent could hear. But put one of them on a mat, one-on-one, and they'd fold in 10 seconds. Bikers are cowards. They only feel strong when they're in a group. The students laughed. It was the kind of casual cruelty that Derek excelled at, the kind that established hierarchy without crossing into obvious malice. He had built his reputation on this balance, on being tough enough to command respect, but charismatic enough to keep students coming back. Vincent didn't move. He sat on the bench, hands still folded, his face still unreadable. But Ethan, sitting beside him, felt his stomach tighten. He knew what those patches meant. He knew what his father had been, what his father's brothers still were. And he knew that Derek Hoffman had just insulted an entire family. Ethan was small for 14, slender and quiet, with dark hair that fell across his forehead and brown eyes that missed very little. He wore jeans and a grey hoodie, his backpack resting against his leg. To everyone in the gym, he was just another kid, unremarkable and easy to ignore. No one knew that he had been training since he was 6 years old. No one knew that Vincent had taught him everything, not in a gym with mirrors and trophies, but in a garage, behind their small house, on mats that smelled like oil and old leather. Vincent had been clear from the beginning. What I teach you isn't for competition. It isn't for trophies. It's for protection. You use it when someone weaker can't protect themselves. You use it when there's no other choice, and you never ever use it for pride. Ethan had promised. He had kept that promise for 8 years. But sitting on that bench, listening to Derek Hoffman mock his father in front of a room full of strangers, Ethan felt something shift inside him. My father isn't a coward. The words came out calm and clear, cutting through the laughter like a blade. The gym fell silent. Derek turned, his grin fading into a look of mild surprise. Kyle stopped typing. The students stared. Derek walked toward the bench, his expression shifting into something paternal and condescending. Hey kid, relax. I wasn't talking about your dad specifically. I was just making a point. You said, bikers are cowards, Ethan said, his voice still calm. My father is a biker. So are his brothers. You called them cowards. Derek's smile returned, but it was thinner now, edged with irritation. Look, I'm sure your dad is a great guy, but there's a difference between riding a motorcycle and being a real fighter. Martial arts takes discipline. It takes years of training. It's not something you can fake. My father doesn't fake anything, Ethan said. Vincent finally spoke. His voice was low and rough, like gravel shifting. Ethan, let it go. But Ethan didn't let it go. He stood up, his backpack sliding to the floor. He was a full foot shorter than Derek, his frame slight compared to the instructor's muscular build. But there was something in his posture, something in the way he held himself, that made Derek pause. You think bikers are cowards because they ride in groups, Ethan said. But you surround yourself with students who worship you. You built this whole place so people would call you sensei and bow to you. Who's the real coward? The gym went completely silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Derek's face flushed red. His jaw tightened. For a moment he looked like he might explode, but then he laughed, a forced, brittle sound. You've got guts, kid, I'll give you that. He glanced at his students, playing to the audience. But guts don't mean much on the mat. You want to defend your dad's honor? Fine. Step on the mat. Show me what a biker's kid can do. Vincent stood up. Derek, he's 14. And I'll go easy on him, Derek said, his smile widening. Just a demonstration, no contact. I'll show him a few moves, teach him some respect, unless he's scared. Ethan looked at his father. Vincent's face was still unreadable, but his eyes said everything. Don't. Walk away. This isn't worth it. But Ethan thought about the laughter. He thought about the way Derek had dismissed his father, had dismissed an entire community of men who had served, who had bled, who had earned their patches through loyalty and sacrifice. He thought about the promise he had made, the promise to only use his training for protection, and he realized that sometimes protecting someone's dignity was just as important as protecting their body. Okay, Ethan said, I'll step on the mat. Derek's grin widened. That's the spirit. Kyle, clear some space. Vincent grabbed Ethan's shoulder. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do," Ethan said quietly. "He disrespected you. He disrespected Uncle Marcus, Uncle Tommy, all of them. I can't let that stand." "Ethan, you taught me to protect people who can't protect themselves," Ethan said. "Right now, you can't defend yourself without proving him right. So I'll do it for you." Vincent stared at his son for a long moment. Then he nodded, just once, and stepped back. Ethan walked toward the mat. He pulled off his hoodie, revealing a plain white t-shirt. He kicked off his sneakers and stepped onto the polished hardwood in his socks. The surface was smooth and cool under his feet, familiar in a way that the students around him couldn't understand. He had spent thousands of hours on mats like this, learning to move, learning to read an opponent's body, learning to turn force into emptiness. Derek stepped onto the mat opposite him, still grinning. "All right, kid. Here's how this works. I'm going to come at you slow, and you're going to try to block or evade. No strikes, no submissions, just defense, understand?" Ethan nodded. "Good. Bow." They bowed. Ethan's bow was deep and respectful, the kind of bow that came from years of discipline. Derek's bow was shallow, performative. The difference was subtle, but Vincent saw it. So did one of the students, a 19-year-old named Ben, who had been training at Elite Strike for 2 years and had always felt vaguely uncomfortable with Derek's teaching style. Derek moved into a fighting stance, his weight balanced, his hands up. "Ready?" Ethan didn't answer. He simply stood there, his arms loose at his sides, his posture relaxed. He looked small and vulnerable, a child facing a grown man. The students shifted uneasily. This felt wrong. Even Kyle, who worshipped Derek, looked uncertain. Derek stepped forward and threw a slow front kick, aiming for Ethan's midsection. It was a textbook technique, controlled and precise, the kind of kick designed to demonstrate form rather than inflict damage. But the kick never landed. Just as Derek's foot was about to connect, Ethan shifted his weight. It was a tiny movement, almost imperceptible, a slight pivot of his hips that took his body just outside the kick's trajectory. Derek's foot passed through empty air, and his momentum carried him forward off balance. Derek recovered quickly, his grin faltering. "Not bad. Let's try that again." He threw another kick, faster this time, with more commitment. Ethan moved again, this time stepping to the side with a fluidity that made it look effortless. Derek's kick hit nothing. He stumbled slightly, catching himself before he fell. The students murmured. Ben leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. He had been studying martial arts long enough to recognize something unusual. The way Ethan moved wasn't flashy or dramatic. It was efficient, economical, the kind of movement that came from deep understanding rather than rote memorization. Derek's smile was gone now. He straightened, his face hardening. "Okay, kid, no more games." He stepped in with a combination, a jab followed by a cross, both punches pulled but still fast enough to be dangerous. Ethan swayed backward, his head tilting just enough to let the jab pass, then pivoted to the side as the cross came through. Derek's fist sliced through the space where Ethan's face had been a fraction of a second earlier, and then Ethan spoke. "Your punches are too wide. You're dropping your right hand when you throw the left. It leaves your ribs exposed." The gym went silent. Derek froze, his fists still raised, his face flushing red. No one spoke to him like that. No one criticized his technique. He was the master here, the authority, the man with the black belt and the wall full of trophies. "What did you just say?" Derek's voice was low and dangerous. "I said your form is sloppy," Ethan repeated, his tone calm and factual. "You're relying on speed and power, but your fundamentals are weak. Anyone with real training could exploit that." Derek's face went from red to purple. The students stared, some with their mouths open, others with expressions of shock and disbelief. Kyle looked like he wanted to intervene but didn't know how. Vincent stood near the bench, his arms crossed, his face still unreadable. "You want to see real training," Derek snarled. "Fine. Let's see how you handle this." He lunged forward, abandoning all pretense. For the demonstration. His right hand shot out in a straight punch aimed directly at Ethan's face, no longer pulled, no longer controlled. It was a full-force strike, the kind that could break a nose or crack a jaw. Ethan moved. His left hand came up in a smooth arc, deflecting Derek's punch at the wrist, redirecting the force past his head. At the same instant, his right hand moved, not in a punch but in an open palm strike, fingers held straight and rigid. He didn't aim for Derek's head or his chest. He aimed for a very specific point just below Derek's ribcage, a cluster of nerves known as the solar plexus. The strike landed with a sound that wasn't loud, but was sharp and final, like a dry stick snapping. Derek froze. His entire body went rigid. His eyes widened, his mouth opening in a silent gasp. He couldn't move. He couldn't breathe. The strike had disrupted the nerve cluster, sending a shockwave through his diaphragm that paralyzed his respiratory system. It was a technique designed not to cause permanent damage, but to incapacitate instantly. Ethan stepped back, his hands returning to his sides. Derek stood frozen for another 3 seconds, his face turning pale, and then his knees buckled. He collapsed onto the mat, gasping for air, his hands clutching his stomach. The gym was completely silent. 20 students stared in frozen disbelief. Kyle stood with his mouth open, unable to process what he had just seen. Vincent remained near. The bench, his expression unchanged, but his eyes held a flicker of something that might have been pride. Ethan looked down at Derek, who was still gasping on the mat, and spoke in the same calm, factual tone. "Does anyone else want a lesson?" No one moved. No one spoke. The only sound was Derek's ragged breathing and the faint hum of the LED lights overhead. Ben, the 19-year-old student, was the first to break the silence. He stepped forward, his voice quiet but clear. "Where did you learn to do that?" Ethan glanced at his father. Vincent gave a small nod. "My father taught me," Ethan said simply. Ben looked at Vincent, really looked at him for the first time. He saw the patches on the vest, the scars on the man's knuckles, the way he stood with a stillness that suggested he had nothing to prove. And Ben understood. Derek finally managed to draw a full breath. He pushed himself up onto his hands and knees, his face twisted with humiliation and rage. "Get out!" he rasped. "Both of you, get out of my gym." Ethan picked up his hoodie and his backpack. Vincent walked toward the door, and Ethan followed. As they passed the students, several of them stepped aside, their expressions ranging from shock to something that looked like respect. Just before they reached the door, Ben spoke again. "Sir?" He was looking at Vincent. "What style is that?" Vincent paused. "It's not a style. It's survival." And then they were gone, the door closing behind them, with a soft click. The parking lot was nearly empty. Vincent's motorcycle, a black Harley Davidson with worn leather saddlebags, sat under a streetlight. The sun had set, and the air was cool, carrying the faint scent of asphalt and distant rain. Ethan walked beside his father in silence. His hands were shaking now, the adrenaline finally catching up to him. He had just struck a grown man, a black belt, in front of an entire class. He had broken his promise. He had used his training, not to protect someone weaker, but to defend pride. Vincent stopped beside the motorcycle and turned to face his son. "You okay?" Ethan nodded, not trusting his voice. "That was stupid," Vincent said, his tone matter-of-fact. "You could have walked away. He disrespected you. So what?" Vincent's voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. "You think I care what some gym owner thinks of me? You think his opinion matters?" "It matters to me," Ethan said, his voice cracking. "He called you a coward. He called all of you cowards. I couldn't just sit there." Vincent sighed. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his keys, then paused. "You remember what I told you when I started teaching you. Only use it for protection." "And was he threatening me?" Ethan looked down at his feet. "No." "Was he threatening you?" "No." "Then why did you do it?" Ethan's throat tightened. "Because he was wrong, and someone needed to show him." Vincent was quiet for a long moment. Then he put a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You're not wrong, but you need to understand something. What you did in there, that's going to have consequences. Derek Hoffman isn't the kind of man who forgets being humiliated, especially not by a kid." "I don't care." "You should," Vincent said, "because it's not just you anymore. It's me. It's your mom. It's everyone connected to us. You opened a door tonight and you don't know what's going to come through it. Ethan looked up at his father, his eyes stinging. I'm sorry. Vincent's expression softened. Don't be sorry, just be ready. They climbed onto the motorcycle. Vincent started the engine and the Harley roared to life, the sound echoing across the empty parking lot. As they pulled out onto the street, Ethan glanced back at the gym. Through the large front windows, he could see Derek standing in the center of the mat, surrounded by his students, his face twisted with rage. Ethan turned away and held on to his father as they rode into the night. Ethan remembered a Saturday morning when he was 8 years old. Vincent had taken him into the garage behind their house, a cramped space that smelled like motor oil and old leather. The floor was covered with interlocking foam mats, the kind used in martial arts studios, and the walls were lined with tools and motorcycle parts. Come here, Vincent had said, gesturing to the center of the mats. Ethan had walked over, curious and a little nervous. Vincent knelt down so they were at eye level. I'm going to teach you something, Vincent said, but before I do, you need to make me a promise. What kind of promise? The kind you never break. Vincent's voice was serious, his eyes locked on Ethan's. What I'm going to teach you isn't a game. It's not for showing off. It's not for winning fights or proving you're tough. It's for one thing only, protecting people who can't protect themselves. Do you understand? Ethan had nodded even though he didn't fully understand. If you ever use what I teach you for the wrong reasons, if you ever hurt someone just because you can, then I'll stop teaching you. And I'll be disappointed, not angry, disappointed, which is worse. Do you understand that? Yes, sir. Good. Vincent had stood up and moved into a stance. Now, let's start with balance. For the next 6 years, Ethan had trained in that garage 3 times a week. Vincent taught him how to fall without getting hurt, how to move without wasting energy, how to read an opponent's body language before they even threw a punch. He taught him pressure points, joint locks and strikes designed to incapacitate rather than injure. He taught him that real fighting wasn't about strength or speed. It was about understanding leverage, timing, and the human body's vulnerabilities. Vincent never explained where he had learned these techniques. He never talked about his past. But Ethan had seen the scars on his father's hands, the way he moved with a precision that suggested military training, and the respect other bikers showed him when they visited. Ethan had pieced together enough to know that his father had been someone important, someone dangerous, before he became a mechanic and a father. And Ethan had kept his promise. For 6 years, he had never used his training outside that garage. Not when bullies at school pushed him, not when older kids tried to start fights. He had walked away every time, honoring the promise he had made to his father. Until tonight. The next morning, Ethan woke to the sound of motorcycle engines. Not 1 or 2, but dozens, a deep, rumbling chorus that shook the windows of their small house. He sat up in bed, his heart pounding, and looked out the window. The street was lined with motorcycles. Harleys mostly, all black and chrome, parked in neat rows on both sides of the road. Men in leather vests stood beside them, their arms crossed, their faces hard. Ethan counted at least 30 bikes, maybe more. He scrambled out of bed and ran downstairs. Vincent was already in the kitchen, drinking coffee, his expression calm. Ethan's mother, Linda, stood by the window, her face pale. Vincent, what is this? She asked, her voice tight with worry. It's the club, Vincent said simply. Why are they here? Vincent took another sip of coffee. Because I called them. Ethan stared at his father. You called them? Why? Vincent set down his mug and looked at his son. Because you were right. Derek Hoffman disrespected us. And in our world, that doesn't go unanswered. But You already handled it, Vincent interrupted. And you did good. But now it's my turn. There was a knock at the door. Vincent walked over and opened it. Standing on the porch was a man in his mid-50s, tall and broad-shouldered, with a grey beard and a leather vest covered in patches. His eyes were sharp and cold. Marcus, Vincent said, nodding. Vincent. Marcus stepped inside, glancing at Ethan and Linda. Heard your boy had some trouble last night. Not trouble, Vincent said. Just a lesson that needed teaching. Marcus grinned. I like this kid already. So what's the plan? We're going to pay Derek Hoffman a visit, Vincent said. All of us. Linda stepped forward. Vincent, you can't. I can, Vincent said gently, and I will. This isn't about revenge. It's about respect. Derek needs to understand that there are consequences for running his mouth. Marcus looked at Ethan. You coming, kid? Ethan glanced at his father. Vincent nodded. Yeah, Ethan said. I'm coming. 60 motorcycles rolled through the streets of Oakland in a tight formation, their engines roaring in unison. People stopped on the sidewalks to stare. Cars pulled over to let them pass. It was a show of force, a reminder that some communities still operated by old rules, rules that had nothing to do with courts or lawyers. Ethan rode behind his father, his arms wrapped around Vincent's waist, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. He had never seen the club like this, all together, moving with a single purpose. It was intimidating and awe-inspiring in equal measure. They arrived at Elite Strike Martial Arts just after 9 in the morning. The gym didn't open until 10, but Derek's car was already in the parking lot. The motorcycles pulled in, filling every available space, their engines cutting off one by one until the only sound was the faint hum of traffic from the nearby highway. Vincent dismounted and walked toward the front door. Marcus and 4 other men followed. Ethan stayed close to his father, his stomach twisting with nerves. Vincent tried the door, it was locked. He knocked 3 sharp raps that echoed through the empty parking lot. A moment later, Derek appeared on the other side of the glass. His face went pale when he saw the crowd of bikers standing outside his gym. He hesitated, his hand on the lock, clearly debating whether to open the door or call the police. Vincent knocked again, harder this time. Derek unlocked the door and opened it a crack. What do you want? We need to talk, Vincent said, his voice calm. I don't have anything to say to you. Then you can listen, Marcus said, stepping forward. His voice was like gravel, rough and unyielding. You disrespected one of our brothers last night. You called us cowards, that's a problem. Derek's face flushed. I was just making a joke, I didn't mean. You meant it, Vincent interrupted. And then you tried to hurt my son. That's 2 problems. He challenged me. He's 14, Vincent said. And you're a grown man with a 3rd-degree black belt. You should have walked away. Derek looked past Vincent at the crowd of bikers, his fear now obvious. Look, I'm sorry, okay? I didn't know he was your kid. I didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't ask, Marcus said. You just assumed. You assumed we were cowards because we ride motorcycles. You assumed we were weak because we don't wear G's and bow to each other. You assumed wrong. Derek swallowed hard. What do you want from me? Vincent stepped closer. I want you to understand something. My son kept his promise for 8 years. He never used what I taught him. Not once until you pushed him. And when he did use it, he used it to defend me. That's honor, that's discipline, that's everything you claim to teach in this gym. Derek didn't respond. You're going to leave him alone, Vincent continued. You're going to leave me alone. And if I hear that you've been talking about us, if I hear that you've been spreading rumors or trying to get revenge, then we're going to have another conversation. And next time, there won't be 60 of us. There'll be 200. Do you understand? Derek nodded, his face pale. Say it, Marcus growled. I understand, Derek said, his voice barely above a whisper. Vincent turned and walked back toward his motorcycle. The other bikers followed, their boots crunching on the asphalt. Ethan glanced back at Derek, who stood in the doorway of his gym looking small and defeated. As they mounted their bikes, Ben, the 19-year-old student, appeared at the edge of the parking lot. He had been watching from across the street, his eyes wide. He walked over to Vincent, his expression uncertain. Sir, Ben said, can I ask you something? Vincent looked at him. Go ahead. Last night when Ethan struck Derek, that wasn't just luck, was it? That was real training. Yeah, Vincent said. It was. Where did you learn it? Vincent was quiet for a moment, then he said, I learned it in places where mistakes get you killed. I learned it from men who understood that fighting isn't about trophies or belts. It's about survival. And I taught it to My son, because I wanted him to be able to protect himself and the people he loves. Ben nodded slowly. Could you teach me? Vincent studied him. Why? Because what I saw last night was real, Ben said. Everything I've been learning in there feels fake now. I want to learn something that matters. Vincent glanced at Marcus, who shrugged. Then he looked back at Ben. You willing to work hard? No shortcuts? No ego? Yes, sir. Then come by my garage on Saturday, 6 in the morning. Don't be late. Ben's face lit up. Thank you, sir. Vincent started his engine. The other bikes roared to life, and the convoy pulled out of the parking lot, leaving Derek Hoffman standing alone in the doorway of his gym. For the next week, Ethan's life returned to a strange kind of normal. He went to school, did his homework, helped his mother with chores. But everything felt different. Word had spread about what happened at Elite Strike, and students at his school looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Some avoided him, others tried to befriend him, hoping to hear the story firsthand. Ethan ignored them all. He had learned from his father that real strength didn't need an audience. On Saturday morning, Ben showed up at Vincent's garage at exactly 6 o'clock. He was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, his face nervous but determined. Vincent was already on the mats, stretching. You're on time, Vincent said. That's a good start. Thank you for giving me a chance, sir. Don't thank me yet, Vincent said. You might hate me by the end of the day. Over the next 3 hours, Vincent put Ben through a grueling workout that focused on basics: footwork, balance, breathing. There were no flashy techniques, no dramatic strikes, just repetition, correction, and more repetition. By the end, Ben was drenched in sweat, his legs shaking, but his eyes were bright. Same time next week, Vincent said, and bring a notebook. You're going to start learning theory? Yes, sir. As Ben left, Ethan walked into the garage. You're really going to teach him? He asked, Vincent said. And he's willing to work. That's more than most people. Do you think Derek will come after us? Vincent shook his head. No. He's a bully, and bullies fold when they're confronted. He'll lick his wounds, maybe close the gym, maybe move to another city. But he won't come after us. Ethan wanted to believe that. But something in his gut told him his father was wrong. Derek Hoffman sat in his office at Elite Strike, staring at the wall. The gym was empty. It had been empty for 3 days. After the bikers had shown up, after the confrontation in the parking lot, students had started canceling their memberships. Some had called with polite excuses. Others had simply stopped showing up. Kyle, his assistant instructor, had quit. I can't work for someone who got humiliated by a kid, he had said, his voice cold. It's bad for my reputation. Derek's reputation was in ruins. The story had spread through the local martial arts community like wildfire, a third-degree black belt taken down by a 14-year-old. It didn't matter that the kid had been trained by someone with real experience. It didn't matter that Derek had been caught off guard. All that mattered was the result. Derek's hands clenched into fists. He had built this gym from nothing. He had spent 15 years earning his black belt, competing in tournaments, building a name for himself. And now, because of one stupid comment, because of one moment of carelessness, it was all falling apart. He opened his laptop and searched for Vincent Callahan. It didn't take long to find information. Vincent was a member of the Hells Angels Oakland chapter, a mechanic, a father. There were a few old articles about the club, mentions of charity rides and community events, but nothing that suggested violence or criminal activity. Derek kept digging. He found a forum for martial artists, a place where instructors shared techniques and discussed training philosophies. He created an anonymous account and posted a message. Has anyone else dealt with bikers trying to intimidate them? A group showed up at my gym yesterday making threats. I'm considering legal action. The responses came quickly. Most were sympathetic, offering advice on restraining orders and security cameras. But one response stood out. If they're Hells Angels, you need to be careful. Those guys don't play around. Document everything, and if they come back, call the police immediately. Derek stared at the screen. An idea was forming, dark and dangerous. If he couldn't beat Vincent and his son physically, maybe he could beat them legally. Maybe he could make their lives so difficult that they would regret ever stepping into his gym. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. It rang 3 times before a woman answered. "Oakland Police Department, how can I help you?" "I'd like to report a threat," Derek said, his voice steady. "A group of bikers came to my business and threatened me. I have witnesses." The police showed up at Vincent's house 2 days later. It was a Tuesday afternoon and Ethan was at school. Linda answered the door, her face going pale when she saw the 2 officers standing on the porch. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice tight. "We're looking for Vincent Callahan," one of the officers said. He was young, maybe 30, with a clean-shaven face and a professional demeanor. "Is he home?" "He's at work. What is this about?" "We received a complaint about a possible threat. We just need to ask him a few questions." Linda's hands trembled. "A threat? Vincent wouldn't..." "Ma'am, we're not accusing anyone of anything. We just need to talk to him." Linda gave them the address of the garage where Vincent worked. The officers thanked her and left. She stood in the doorway watching them drive away, her heart pounding. When Vincent came home that evening, he was calm but tense. "The police came by the shop," he said, setting his keys on the kitchen table. "Derek filed a complaint, said we threatened him." "Did you?" Linda asked. "We told him to leave us alone," Vincent said. "That's not a threat. That's a boundary. What are they going to do?" "Nothing, probably. They took my statement, asked a few questions. I told them the truth. Derek insulted me, my son defended me, and we went to his gym to make sure he understood there would be consequences if he kept running his mouth. That's it. Vincent, this could get serious." "I know." Vincent sat down at the table, his expression weary. "But we didn't do anything wrong. Derek is trying to save face. He's trying to make himself look like the victim." Ethan, who had been listening from the hallway, stepped into the kitchen. "This is my fault." "No," Vincent said firmly. "This is Derek's fault. He started this. We're just finishing it." But over the next 2 weeks, it became clear that Derek wasn't finished. He filed a restraining order, claiming that the bikers had harassed him and damaged his property. The order was denied due to lack of evidence, but the accusation was enough to plant seeds of doubt. Derek also reached out to local news outlets, pitching a story about a small business owner being intimidated by a motorcycle gang. Most ignored him, but one blogger picked it up, writing a sensationalized article that painted Derek as a victim and the Hells Angels as thugs. The article spread on social media. People who had never met Vincent or Derek weighed in with opinions. Some defended the bikers, pointing out that Derek had provoked the situation. Others condemned them, arguing that showing up with 60 motorcycles was excessive and intimidating. Vincent's phone started ringing. Friends from the club called to check in. His boss at the garage called, asking if the rumors were true. Even Linda's co-workers at the hospital where she worked as a nurse started asking questions. The pressure was building, and Ethan could see it wearing on his father. Vincent didn't complain, didn't show weakness, but the lines around his eyes deepened, and he spent more time in the garage, working on his bike, trying to find peace in the familiar rhythm of tools and engines. Ethan felt the guilt like a weight on his chest. He had defended his father's honor, but in doing so he had brought chaos into their lives. He had broken his promise, and now everyone was paying the price. One night, as Ethan lay in bed, unable to sleep, he heard his parents talking in the kitchen. Their voices were low, but the walls were thin. "We can't keep living like this," Linda said. "Every day there's something new. Yesterday, someone left a nasty comment on my Facebook page. Today, a reporter called asking for an interview." "I know," Vincent said. "But what do you want me to do? Apologize to Derek? Admit we were wrong?" "I want this to stop." "So do I, but Derek isn't going to stop until he gets what he wants." "And what does he want?" Vincent was quiet for a long moment. "He wants us to suffer. He wants to rebuild his reputation by tearing ours down." Ethan closed his eyes, his throat tight. He had to fix this. He had to find a way to end it. The next morning, Ethan didn't go to school. He told his mother he was sick, and after she left for work, he grabbed his backpack and rode his bike across town to Elite Strike Martial Arts. The gym was open, but it was nearly empty. Only 3 students were inside. practicing kata in front of the mirrors. Derek was in his office, visible through the glass window. Ethan walked up to the front desk and knocked on the window. Derek looked up, his expression shifting from surprise to anger. He stood and walked out of the office, stopping a few feet away from Ethan. "What are you doing here?" Derek asked, his voice cold. "I came to talk," Ethan said. "We have nothing to talk about." "Yes, we do." Ethan took a breath. "I'm sorry." Derek blinked, clearly not expecting that. "You're sorry." "I shouldn't have challenged you," Ethan said. "I shouldn't have struck you. I let my anger control me, and I broke a promise I made to my father. That was wrong." Derek stared at him, his expression unreadable. "You think an apology is going to fix this?" "No," Ethan said, "but it's a start. You were wrong to insult my father, but I was wrong to humiliate you in front of your students. We both made mistakes." "I didn't make a mistake," Derek said, his voice rising. "I made a joke. You and your biker friends turned it into a war." "Because you wouldn't let it go," Ethan said. "You filed a police report. You talked to the media. You're trying to destroy my father's reputation because you're embarrassed." "I'm trying to protect myself." "From what?" Ethan's voice was calm but firm. "We're not a threat to you. We never were. You're the one who keeps escalating this." Derek's jaw tightened. "Get out of my gym. Not until you agree to stop." "I said get out." Ethan didn't move. "If you don't stop, this is going to get worse. Not because of us, because of you. You're making yourself look like a victim, but people are starting to see through it. You're losing students. You're losing respect. And eventually you're going to lose everything." Derek took a step forward, his fists clenched. "You don't know anything about me." "I know you're scared," Ethan said. "I know you built this place to prove you're strong, and now you're terrified that everyone will see you're not. But strength isn't about never losing. It's about how you handle it when you do." For a moment, Derek looked like he might hit him. But then his shoulders sagged, and the anger drained from his face, leaving only exhaustion. "What do you want from me?" Derek asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I want you to let this go," Ethan said. "Stop talking to the media. Stop filing complaints. Just let it end." Derek was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "And if I do, will you and your father leave me alone?" "Yes." Derek nodded slowly. "Fine. It's over." Ethan turned and walked toward the door. As he reached it, Derek called out, "Hey, kid!" Ethan looked back. "Where did your father really learn to fight?" Ethan hesitated. Then he said, "He learned it from men who didn't have a choice, men who had to be strong because weakness meant death. He learned it so he could survive, and he taught it to me so I could protect the people I love." Derek nodded, his expression thoughtful. "He's a good teacher." "Yeah," Ethan said. "He is." When Ethan got home, Vincent was waiting for him in the garage. His arms were crossed, his expression stern. "Your mum called." Vincent said you didn't go to school. "I went to see Derek," Ethan said. Vincent's eyes narrowed. "Why?" "To end this." Ethan explained what had happened, how he had apologized, how Derek had agreed to stop. Vincent listened in silence, his face unreadable. When Ethan finished, Vincent sighed. "You shouldn't have gone alone." "I know, but it worked." "Maybe." Vincent walked over to his workbench and picked up a wrench, turning it over in his hands. "You took a risk. Derek could have hurt you. He could have called the police and claimed you were harassing him, but he didn't." "No, he didn't." Vincent set down the wrench and looked at his son. "You know why?" "Because I apologized?" "Because you gave him a way out," Vincent said. "You showed him respect even though he didn't deserve it. That takes more strength than any strike." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. "Did I do the right thing?" Vincent was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. "Yeah, you did." Over the next few days, the storm began to calm. Derek stopped talking to the media. The blogger who had written the sensationalized article posted a retraction, admitting that he hadn't verified all the facts. The police closed their investigation, finding no evidence of threats or harassment. Vincent's phone stopped ringing. Linda's co-workers stopped asking questions. Life slowly returned to normal. But something had changed. Ethan could feel it. He had learned that strength wasn't just about fighting. It was about knowing when to fight and when to walk away. It was about protecting people even when it meant swallowing your pride. One Saturday morning, Ben showed up at the garage for his training session. He had been coming every week, and his progress was remarkable. Vincent had started teaching him more advanced techniques, and Ben absorbed everything like a sponge. As they finished the session, Ben asked, "Sir, can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "Why did you agree to teach me? You don't know me, you don't owe me anything." Vincent thought for a moment. "Because you asked, and because you're willing to work. That's all I need. But what if I use what you teach me the wrong way? Then I'll stop teaching you," Vincent said simply. "But I don't think you will. You're here because you want to learn something real. And real martial arts isn't about hurting people, it's about protecting them." Ben nodded, his expression serious. "I won't let you down, sir. I know you won't." As Ben left, Ethan walked into the garage. "You're building something, aren't you?" Vincent looked at his son. "What do you mean?" "You're teaching Ben. You're teaching me. You're passing on what you know." "Yeah," Vincent said. "I guess I am." "Why?" Vincent sat down on the edge of the mat, his expression thoughtful. "Because what I know shouldn't die with me. I learned it from men who are gone now. Men who taught me that strength isn't about domination. It's about service, and if I can pass that on to you, to Ben, to anyone who's willing to learn, then maybe it'll mean something." Ethan sat down beside his father. "Do you think Derek learned anything?" "Maybe," Vincent said. "Or maybe he'll just find someone else to blame, but that's not our problem anymore." "Do you think I did the right thing? Going to see him?" Vincent put a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You took responsibility. You tried to make things right. That's more than most people do, so yeah, you did the right thing." Ethan felt the weight on his chest lift slightly. "I broke my promise, though. I used what you taught me for pride." "No," Vincent said. "You used it to defend someone who couldn't defend himself. Me. I couldn't respond to Derek without proving him right, but you could. You were protecting me, even if it didn't feel like it." Ethan looked at his father, his eyes stinging. "I don't want to disappoint you." "You haven't," Vincent said, "and you won't, because you understand what this is really about. It's not about being the toughest or the strongest. It's about being the person who stands up when no one else will. That's honor. That's discipline. And that's what I'm proud of." 3 months later, Elite Strike Martial Arts closed its doors. Derek Hoffman moved to another city, taking a job as an assistant instructor at a larger gym. He never spoke publicly about what had happened, and the story faded from social media, replaced by newer controversies and scandals. Ben continued training with Vincent, and word spread. Other students started showing up, young men and women who were tired of flashy techniques and tournament trophies, who wanted to learn something real. Vincent's garage became an unofficial dojo, a place where discipline and respect mattered more than belts and rankings. Ethan helped teach the beginners, passing on the lessons his father had taught him. He was patient and firm, never raising his voice, always leading by example. The students respected him, not because he was the instructor's son, but because he embodied the principles he taught. One evening, as the last student left, Vincent and Ethan sat on the mats, the garage quiet except for the faint hum of the overhead light. "You know," Vincent said, "when I started teaching you, I never thought it would lead to this." "To what?" Ethan asked. "To a community, to something bigger than just you and me." Ethan smiled. "Is that a bad thing?" "No," Vincent said. "It's a good thing. It's the best thing." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Ethan said, "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you ever regret it? The life you had before? The club, the fights, all of it?" Vincent thought for a long time. "No," he said finally. "I don't regret it. It made me who I am. It taught me what matters, and it gave me the tools to teach you. So no, I don't regret it." "Do you miss it?" Sometimes, Vincent admitted, but I have something better now. I have you. I have your mum. I have this. He gestured to the garage, to the mats, to the space they had built together. This is my legacy, and it's worth more than anything I left behind. Ethan nodded, his throat tight. I'm glad you're my dad. Vincent smiled, a rare, genuine smile. I'm glad you're my son. And that's where we'll end the story for now. Whenever I share one of these, I hope it gives you a chance to step out of the everyday and just drift for a bit. I'd love to know what you were doing while listening. Maybe relaxing after work, on a late-night drive, or just winding down. Drop a line in the comments. I really do read them all. And if you want to make sure we cross paths again, hitting like and subscribing makes a huge difference. We are always trying to improve our stories, so feel free to also drop your feedback in the comment section below. Thanks for spending this time with me. If this story moved you, write legacy in the comments. This is a story from Underdog Dojo.